he's on the chase. This one's going out. Thiem has beaten Murray.
This week, Dominic Thiem will play the final match of his career. That sounds very weird, doesn't it? Some years ago, he emerged on the tour and quickly placed himself as one of the contenders to, someday, dethrone the Big Three and be the new face of the sport. However, life had some different plans for him. He will now play the last professional tournament of his career in Vienna, in front of his family, friends, and home crowd, and will retire before two of the members of the Big Three. Just take a moment to reflect on that. Not only did Domi possess an exciting style of play, which set him among the best of his generation, but most importantly, he became one of the nicest guys on tour, someone who you simply couldn't hate. That's why his retirement announcement was such sad news to hear.
For everybody who came and everybody who got me the chance to play here for one last time, thank you so much.
Dominic started playing tennis at the age of 6. Both his parents, Wolfgang and Karen, were professional tennis coaches. They were the ones that brought him into the sport, but none of them really interfered in their son's professional career. It was Günter Bresnik, an Austrian tennis coach, who became Dominic's main coach in 2002, before he turned 10 years old. The pair worked together until the start of 2019. From a very young age, Thiem was already raising the hopes of Austrian tennis. He had a very good ITF juniors career, where he reached a career high ranking of number 2 in the world. His main achievement was making the 2011 Junior French Open final, which he lost to Bjorn Fratangelo. Besides that, he finished his juniors career winning the last 3 tournaments that he took part in: 2 Grade 1s, Yucatan Cup, and the Eddie Hare International Junior Tennis Championships, and a Grade A, Orange Bowl International Tennis Championship. This was at the end of the 2011 season, which happened to be his last before turning professional the following year. Within 2011, he made his ATP Tour debut. His first ever appearance on the main tour happened in his home country, at the ATP 250 in Kitzbühel. He played Daniel Gimeno in the first round and lost in straight sets. A few weeks later, he received another wildcard to play the ATP 250 event in Bangkok, Thailand. Once again, he lost in the first round, this time to Jarkko Nieminen, 7-5 in the third. At the third time of asking, his maiden ATP Tour win would come in Vienna, after receiving a wildcard into the main draw. In the first round, he happened to draw Thomas Muster, the greatest Austrian tennis player ever, who was playing the last event of his career. Thiem won that match rather easily, retiring Muster and somehow, metaphorically speaking, taking the baton of Austrian tennis. It took him a few years to make the transition to the ATP Tour. He spent 2012 playing mostly futures tournaments, winning 3 titles in 4 finals, and in 2013 he started playing some challengers, winning his first title of that category in Kenitra, Morocco, and later on winning his second in the same country, in Casablanca. By the end of that year, he had placed himself within the best 125 players in the world, and was already starting to be seen as a future top player. It didn't take him too long to adapt to the ATP Tour. By 2014, he was already playing toe-to-toe with the best players in the world. He won his first Grand Slam match in Australia, reached his first ATP final on home soil in Kitzbühel, and made the 4th round at the US Open in his first main draw appearance. Not bad for a first year in the ATP Tour. He finished the season inside the top 40, and at the end of the year, he complied with a month of obligatory military service with the Austrian army. After 2014, his growth over the next few years, season by season, became something really admirable. In 2015, he won his maiden ATP Tour title in Nice, and later on won back-to-back titles in Umag and Gstaad, making it 3 ATP 250 titles in only his second season playing at that level. After such good results, he broke into the top 20 for the first time in his career. His breakthrough season happened in 2016, when he played the South American swing for the first time. Clay being his favorite surface, he left no doubts about it when he beat none other than the king of clay himself, Rafael Nadal, on their first meeting in Buenos Aires. There, he won the 4th title of his career.
È lungo il passaggio di Nadal, chiude Dominic Thiem.
A few weeks later, he demonstrated that he was not only a dangerous player on clay, but that he could play on hard courts as well. He won his first ATP 505th title of his career in Acapulco. Later in Rome, he obtained his first ever win against Roger Federer, ranked number 2 in the world at that time, in the 3rd round. The week after, he defended his title in Nice, and after that, he reached his first Grand Slam semifinals at Roland Garros. Just like that, he broke into the top 10 for the very first time in his career. Even though he hadn't obtained any good results on grass the years prior, in the first tournament of the swing in Stuttgart, he lifted his 7th career title and 4th of the year. Despite his second half of the season not being particularly strong, all of his achievements in the first half of the year were enough to secure him a spot at the ATP Finals, where he would compete for the first time in his career. There, he lost to Djokovic, beat Monfils, and eventually lost to Raonic in a match for a place in the semifinals. He finished the year ranked number 8 in the world. The climb continued in 2017 when he won his second ATP 500 title and 8th of his career in Rio de Janeiro and obtained his first ever win against a world number 1, beating Andy Murray in the semifinals of Barcelona.
Chase. This one's going out. Thiem has beaten Murray for the first time.
A week after that, he reached his first Masters 1000 final in Madrid, which he lost to local hero Rafael Nadal. In Roland Garros, he obtained his maiden victory against Novak Djokovic, beating him in straight sets in the quarterfinals, before losing to Nadal in the semifinals. Later on in the season, he played the infamous match against Juan Martín del Potro at the US Open 4th round, which he was easily leading by 6-1 and 6-2, and ended up losing in front of a packed stadium rooting for the Argentinian. Even though the remainder of his season was arguably poor, he reached a career high ranking of number 4 in the world before the ATP finals, which he played for the second year in a row. Once again, he was unable to qualify for the semifinals, losing matches to eventual champion and finalist Grigor Dimitrov and David Goffin. He finished the year ranked 5. By this time, he was already an established top player, known for his attractive one-handed backhand, even though his main weapon was his heavy topspin forehand, which gave him so much benefit, especially on clay. His aggressive baseline game had already become a joy to watch. The following year, in 2018, he won his second Buenos Aires title and reached the final in Madrid for the second consecutive year. That time, it was his good friend Alexander Zverev on the other side of the net, and it was the German who eventually lifted the trophy. He arrived at Roland Garros having won his 10th career title the week prior in Lyon, and didn't disappoint in the French capital. Arriving as one of the main candidates, he reached his maiden Grand Slam final, having to face the only player with better odds than him, Rafael Nadal. The Spaniard won in straight sets. Later on, he reached his first Slam quarterfinals on a hard court in New York, losing to Nadal once again in 5 sets.
Match Nadal.
He won his 11th title in St. Petersburg and lost in the round robin of the ATP finals for a 3rd consecutive year. He finished the year inside the top 8 players yet again, having become one of the most consistent players. Arguably the most successful year of his career came in 2019. He started the year by adding a new coach to his team, starting to work with Nicolas Massu. Later on, he would part ways with Gunter Bresnik too. The move had a great impact on Dominic's career, as just a month into the new collaboration, he won the biggest title of his career to that point, his first Masters 1000 title in Indian Wells.
Dominic Thiem wins the very first Masters 1000 title.
Yes, his first and only Masters 1000 title came on hard court. Back on the clay, he won the title in Barcelona and made his second consecutive final in Roland Garros. Having to play against a familiar face. Once again, it was Nadal on the other side of the net. This time, he managed to snatch a set off the Spaniard, but that was not enough. He came up short once again. After Roland Garros, he played some more clay court tournaments and had the possibility to win on home soil for the first time, lifting the title in Kitzbühel. He also had the best result of his life in Asia, winning the China Open in Beijing and reaching the quarters in Shanghai. Back in Europe, he made it 2 for 2 at home, winning the title in Vienna on a very emotional evening. At the ATP finals, he finally had a good tournament, beating Federer and Djokovic back-to-back to finally make it past the round robin. He beat Zverev in the semifinals and narrowly lost to Tsitsipas in the final. The only reason why we might not consider 2019 as the most successful year of his career is because he won his biggest title the following season, in 2020. As it is of public knowledge, Dominic Thiem is a Grand Slam champion. His season, however, started losing yet another Grand Slam final in Australia. It was his first major final on a hard court, and in that decisive match, he had another great on the other side of the net, Novak Djokovic. Domi was 2 sets to 1 up on Djokovic, the most successful player ever down under, but unfortunately, he couldn't sustain the lead and ended up losing the match. Fortunately, he would have another go 6 months later, when tennis resumed after the pandemic and the US Open was played. It was a very particular slam for many reasons, including Djokovic's default when he was the main candidate to win his 18th slam. That situation opened up the draw, and Thiem, the second seed of the tournament, made it to the final, where he played Alexander Zverev. In that match, he came from 2 sets to love down and won his maiden slam title, something that he deserved very much.
A historic match, a historic win, and the future of men's tennis.
The world of tennis was very happy for him. At the end of the year, he played the ATP finals again and reached the final for the second year in a row. On that occasion, he came up short once again, that time against Daniil Medvedev. The start of 2021 was, inexplicably, pretty bad. Thiem was struggling to find good form, and results were just not coming. However, the big problem came in late June, when he was playing his first match in the ATP 250 in Mallorca against Adrian Mannarino. He was 5-2 up in the first set when he injured his wrist and was unable to continue the match. That was in fact the end of his season. Since Since that moment, Dominic Thiem was never ever the same again. In 2022, unable to defend his points from the year prior, he fell out of the top 300. He returned to action playing some challenger events and eventually started winning some matches back on tour. By the end of the season, he had entered back in the top 100 and played 3 ATP 250 semifinals. For 2023, he could not carry that good form and lost many early rounds during the first half of the season. He had a moment of happiness in Kitzbühel, where he reached his first ATP final in 3 years, which unfortunately he lost to Sebastian Baez. Other than that, the year was pretty uneventful, and so was the start of the 2024 season. His game, especially his forehand, was never the same since he got that right wrist injury. Seeing him like this was not only tough for his team and for his fans, most importantly, it was very frustrating for him as well, realizing he was no longer able to compete the way he wanted to. Therefore, in May, he announced his retirement from professional tennis in October, playing his home tournament in Vienna, which is due to happen this week.
Den Schläger an den Nagel hängen,
frame
heute
that
wieder
one,
in die
Paul.
Vitrine. Champions of Vienna. Lieber Dominic!
Hopefully he can have a good tournament and say goodbye to the sport that has given him so much in a memorable way, winning some matches and playing some good tennis at a level with which he is content. I'm sure most of us will be tuning in and supporting Domi, hoping that we get to see his beautiful game for at least one more match. If you enjoyed today's video, don't hesitate to subscribe to the channel so as not to miss any of the upcoming ones. If you are a tennis fan, you can also check the channel to watch some of our previous uploads. Without further ado, thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.